The following presentation are the thoughts and opinions of the presenter and do not represent those of the Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, Pat, Kim, the staff, or any members of our distinguished audience who use words like oligonucleotide, exon skipping, deletion, duplication, skeletal, associated adenoid virus, bone density, revertant fibers, or upregulation while eating breakfast with their colleagues. Good afternoon, I am Zachary's dad. Zachary is 20 and he is inconvenienced with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I'm also Reagan's dad. She recently turned 16, so I get to hear a lot of, "Oh my God, Dad, stop dancing in front of my friends." But I will remind you that seventh row Katy Perry tickets actually probably came from your mother, but all roads to Katy Perry go through my wallet. And lastly, I'm Jackie's love machine and I'm going to work for nobody but you. And so you can stop telling people that I'm stuck in the 80s. That was clearly the Miracles' 1975. So I was born and raised in Illinois, so before I get started, I thought I might share some fun facts with you. Illinois is known as the land of Lincoln. It's our state motto. But Lincoln was actually born in Kentucky. Our current president calls Illinois his home too, but I don't know where he was born. 4 of our last 7 governors are or have been in prison for corruption. But my wife and I are from the southern part of the state, where only 2 out of every 4 of our politicians are as crooked as a dog's hind leg. If you've taken a moment to look out to the west side of our hotel, you'll notice the historic Inn of Chicago. It was actually built in 1927, and in its day, it's where everyone famous came to stay. It's housed such great Hollywood stars as Julie Garland, Roy Rogers stayed there, Dean Martin, and some guy named Jerry Lewis. That's what you get for cropping Pat out of that picture in 2001. Didn't think I was going to forget that, did you? All right, I got many more, but we can share those later. For the newly diagnosed families, we are very sorry. We did not want to meet you either. But this is a safe harbor for you, and you are among friends, and we're all in this thing together. There's a quick note I wanted to share with the new folks as these name tags constantly flip around backwards. So tomorrow, the people that are still a little drunk from the reception are parents. The other people who are still a little drunk from the reception but have a green dystrophic stain on their necktie are researchers. So Kim asked me to speak to you today about surviving the storm, and being the man of great intellect that I am, I figured I probably should look that up. So to survive is to endure or live through an affliction, adversity, or misery. A storm is a disturbance of the normal condition of the atmosphere. So it appears that we are living through an abnormal condition. The great English poet Robert Plant once said, "Mean old levee taught me to weep and moan. If it keeps on raining, the levee's going to break." Yeah, that's Led Zeppelin. There are days when we all feel like one more drop of water and the levee's going to break. I can still remember standing in my front yard at 3 a.m., staring up into the sky with a look of sheer defiance on my face that could only be topped by Captain Dan during a hurricane, asking why? Why won't you cure this? A friend of mine recently told me a story. He said when he was a small boy, his youth pastor told him it's okay to pray for answers, just as long as you understand that sometimes the answer is no. The early days of the diagnosis are hard. I can unfortunately say it took me a while to get through them. As a philosophy major, that's kind of bad. But someone once said you choose your attitude. I'd say that person had a greater probability of saying that after dropping hot McDonald's coffee in their lap than finding out their son has Duchenne. It's still pretty good advice, though. There are, however, places along this journey where you will course correct. When Zachary ran over his own foot with his mobility scooter 2 weeks before his 11th birthday, he had taken his last steps. A few days later, while talking to my scooter repair guy, he brought out a small wheelchair, a Quickie V100 that somebody had traded in. It was the perfect size for Zach. I felt like I had been kicked in the guts. But I knew it was time because my wife and I were picking up Zachary and carrying him places, and she has 2 bulging discs to prove it. So I talked to Zach about it, and we drove over to look at the chair. He did not want to go. When we got there, he drove his mobility scooter into the wheelchair shop, and I picked him up and put him in that little Quickie V100. It was blue. He hit the power button, and he slowly navigated out the door and into the parking lot. As I was talking to the scooter repairman, I heard Zach screaming. So I ran outside to see what was the matter. He'd found the speed control, maxed it out, and he was cutting donuts in the loose gravel. He pulled up to me and with a sliding stop said, "Dad, can we get it?" You see, I was mourning his loss of mobility. He was celebrating his newfound freedom. The course was corrected. A few years later, I remember going to a doctor's appointment in Cincinnati. I had injured my shoulder right before we left, so I'm dragging the Hoyer lift and a couple of suitcases through the airport in Tampa. Just waiting to get to security so I can answer my two favorite questions. Can he walk? No, we just got this thing for the parking. Can he stand? I don't know. Are you going to play the national anthem? So 20 minutes after they got done polishing our Permobile with the explosive detecting baby wipes, they sent us down to the gate, where then my second challenge was try to explain to the flight attendant that Boeing and Permobile never got together to discuss the compatibility of their two products. No, you cannot drive a wheelchair onto an airplane. So they finally bring me out a jump seat, and with my one good arm, I load Zachary up into the seat on the airplane. And you don't know this, but it would be easier to sandpaper a tiger's bottom in a phone booth than it is to fly with Zach, because he don't like to fly. So I'm looking out the window, and I'm watching the two airline employees slamming our 400-pound Permobile onto the luggage belt, and there's pieces flying off of it. And it wasn't a pleasant flight. The only person that's ever squeezed my hand any harder was Zachary's mother when she was trying to force our daughter into this world. So it was rough. And we landed in Columbus, and they dropped off our handicapped accessible van so we could drive on down to Cincinnati for our appointment. And by this point, my head is hurting as much as my shoulder. So we get to the hotel, we get checked in, and of course, the boy has to go. And there's no way the Hoyer lift is fitting into the bathroom. So there's some panic, and then there's some creative thinking, and then we find a way to accomplish this task. And so as I'm slowly getting him dressed with my left hand, he can see the pain in my eyes. So I tell him, "Your clothes are on crooked, we're going to the movies." He doesn't want to go. It was in the elevator on the way down where we had another course correction. Because you see, in the sweetest, most apologetic voice, Zachary said, "I'm sorry I'm handicapped. I wish we were normal." And I've always told myself, there's no circumstances that will happen in my life where I will become my father. I can count on one finger how many times my dad told me or my brother that he loved us. And my dad's answer from everything from a bug bite to a broken leg was methylate, mercurochrome, or squirt some Bactine on it. I can tell you after 49 years, there's still places on my body that are permanently stained orange. But it was, however, at that moment, with my father's rage, I turned to my son and said, "Normal? Normal? Normal people are weak, and they don't even know it. Normal people are pathetic. Any idiot can be normal. It takes guts, determination, strength, and the desire to absolutely never even contemplate giving up and die trying attitude to be in this family. Don't you ever say that to me again." I could see the fear in my son's eyes that I'm sure my father saw in my own at least 100 times. The rest of the elevator ride down was long. But when we got to the bottom, I turned to him and said, "Holy crap, there's a Frisch's Big Boy in the parking lot. Let's get a double burger before we go to the movie." I don't honestly remember the movie. I was in too much pain. I woke up at the end of it. But since that day, I've carried Zachary at the beach. I've pushed his half-dead wheelchair up a mountain in South Dakota so he could see where Wild Bill is buried. I've run 1,000 miles in an ugly green shirt. There are no limits to what my family can or will do. Surviving the storm, I guess we were too busy to notice it even rained. Your family's life is going to be what you settle for. My family is abnormally strong. On a research side note, I did want to let you know that the Dutch will start a double-blind mercurochrome methylate placebo stage 1 trial this fall, and Doug Bigger is looking up the effects of Bactine with deflazacort. Also, if you decide to go out tonight and explore the city, please stop by the PPMD table in the back, as they still have a few of the PPMD Kevlar hoodies available, but they're running out of mediums. And I started with the words of a great English poet. I will finish with the great words of an American poet. Live every moment, love every day, because if you don't, you just might throw your love away. Thank you.